You show up every month without fail. Rent paid. Groceries stocked. Repairs handled. Bills covered before they're even due. And yet, you still feel like the villain in your own home. They don't say thank you. They say you don't do enough. They don't ask how you're holding up. They ask why you're so quiet. They think silence means you're cold. They think distance means you don't care. But the truth? You've given so much, you no longer know what you're allowed to keep for yourself. You carry them. You carry everything. And somehow, you're still the one they blame. You thought if you just worked hard enough, they'd see you, appreciate you, understand what it takes to make all of this possible. So you put your head down, you took the shifts, sighed yes to the responsibilities, swallowed the stress, buried the resentment, because love looks like sacrifice, right? You kept telling yourself they'll understand one day. But days turned into months, months into years. And now, when something goes wrong, you're not just the one who has to fix it. You're the one they point fingers at. Like you caused the pressure, like you wanted this weight. They don't see the nights you stayed up worrying. They don't see the hours you spent in silence, trying to calculate how to make it all work again. They just see what's missing, not what you gave up to make sure they didn't go without. And the worst part, you don't know how to explain this without sounding bitter. You don't know how to speak your pain without feeling guilty for having it in the first place. So you say nothing. You keep showing up, you keep paying the price, and deep down, you wonder, what would it take for them to finally see me? But this story, your story, it's not just about bills or responsibility. It's about how being everything for everyone slowly erases who you are. And if that's true, what happens when the person providing it all starts to disappear? That's where we're going next. It didn't happen all at once. No one walked up and said, "You don't matter anymore." But slowly you stopped being a person and started becoming a role. Not a partner, not a parent, not a friend, just the one who provides. Just the one who has it together. The one who's fine, even when you're not. They stopped asking how your day was. Stopped checking if you ate. Stopped noticing that your smile was gone. Because somewhere along the way, your value became transactional. What you give became more important than how you feel. They don't see the nights you sit in your car just to breathe before walking through the door. They don't see you at the sink, clenching your jaw because the tears are too close. They only see what they need from you. And when you finally crack, they act like it came out of nowhere. But that collapse, it was years in the making. They just weren't looking. And maybe deep down, you taught them to do that. You taught them not to ask. You taught them you were fine. You taught them you could handle it. And now, you're buried beneath the very strength they praised. But here's the thing, you're allowed to be more than useful. You're allowed to be held. You're allowed to need. And if that makes some people uncomfortable, then maybe they never truly saw you to begin with. So, before we move on, take a breath, because you're not just watching this video. You're surviving something you were never meant to survive alone. If you've ever felt invisible in your own home, your own relationship, your own family, leave a comment. Let someone else know they're not alone. And if this message resonates, share it. Someone else out there is carrying silently, just like you. Now, what happens to someone who gives everything, gets blamed for what's missing, and is never allowed to fall? They don't explode. They disconnect. You start pulling back, not out of spite, but out of survival. Because when no one asks how you're doing, you stop offering the truth. When your effort is met with criticism, you stop trying to connect. When your worth feels tied only to what you produce, you start wondering if you have any worth at all. So you shut the door softly. You give shorter answers. You laugh less, sleep less, speak less. You're still there, but less of you is present every day. And people don't notice what's missing when they never took the time to know what was there. You want to feel something, but it's safer not to. You want to open up, but it's easier not to. And the cruel irony? The more you disconnect, the more they blame you for being distant, cold, detached. They call it withdrawal. You call it survival. They ask why you don't talk anymore, why you don't touch anymore, why you're always in your head. But how do you explain that you've become a stranger to yourself? You don't even know what you feel anymore? You just know you're tired of carrying everything and still being the one they point at when it all goes wrong? Pause here. If any of this sounds like your story, you are not broken. You're burnt out. You're not weak. You're wounded. And it's okay to want something more than survival. Hit that subscribe button to stay grounded in stories that speak to the part of you that's always been strong in silence. But what if this disconnection isn't the end? What if there's a way back? What if, beneath the exhaustion, there's still a quiet part of you that wants to be known? Not for what you provide, but for who you are. That's where we're heading next. There's a part of you that still waits, quietly, patiently. It's the part that remembers what it felt like to be heard, not just managed, to be hugged, not just expected, to be loved, not just needed. That part of you hasn't died. It's just been buried, under expectation, under guilt, under years of proving your value with your wallet instead of your heart. You wonder if it's too late. Too late to speak, too late to be soft, too late to say, I can't carry all of this alone anymore, but it's not. It never is. Because being seen starts with one brave act, telling the truth. Not the one they want to hear, not the one that keeps the peace, but the truth that says, I'm more than what I give. I deserve love without having to earn it every day. I'm not okay, and I don't want to pretend anymore. You don't need everyone to understand. You just need to stop betraying yourself to be understood. And you might lose people when you stop playing the role, but the ones who stay, the ones who see you through the silence, those are the ones who were never blind to begin with. If this moment is stirring something in you, something honest, something painful, something real, don't silence it again. Say it. In the comments, in a message to someone, or in a private journal that finally tells your story without shame. Because you're not just a provider, you're a person. And that matters more than any bill ever could. But how does it all end? What happens when the one who carried everything finally puts it down? That's what we'll explore softly, honestly, in the final part. There's strength in carrying others. But there's a different kind of strength, a quieter, braver kind, in saying, I can't carry this by myself anymore. Because you were never meant to. You weren't born to be the emotional sponge for every disappointment. You weren't created to be the emergency fund for everyone's chaos. You weren't made to trade your peace for someone else's comfort every day. You thought holding it all made you strong, and maybe it did. But letting go, even a little, might be what finally makes you free. You don't need a grand escape. You just need one moment of honesty. Tell someone you're tired. Tell someone you feel alone. Tell someone that showing up every day doesn't mean you're unbreakable. And if there's no one you can tell, let this be the space where that truth gets to exist. Let your comment be your first release, your first unburdening, your first proof that you are more than your ability to endure. You are not a machine. You are not a paycheck. You are not a wall. You are a human being who has quietly given everything and still deserves love, rest, and to be held. Not one day. Not when things are less chaotic. But now, you don't have to collapse to be taken seriously. You don't have to disappear to finally be seen. You only have to speak. And even if your voice trembles, speak anyway. If this video has spoken to something inside you, then stay with us. Subscribe to the channel. Because here, we don't just honor your strength. We help you carry your silence until you no longer have to carry it alone. We tell stories for the ones who've gone too long without a voice. And yours matters more than you know.